Welcome to the Prakriya podcast, a platform for conversations on nature, technology, children, and their needs for diverse modes of learning. Namaste, everyone, and welcome to Change the Rules of Learning. I am Sita Anantasivan, and I am just entering into this new adventure of launching a podcast for the Prakriya Green Wisdom School. This is the 25th anniversary year of Prakriya, and many of us have worked together to make education and the whole learning process more creative and innovative and meaningful over these last so many years. And we have written a book about it called Education in Tune with Nature. But we felt that in this day and age, we should come out with a podcast and share as much as we can with people who are interested in making education more valuable for children. Along with me is Sharon Lingdo, and she too will join me in talking to you about the nature of this podcast. Yeah, Sharon.
Namaskara, and I'm really excited to be here, Sita. This being the 25th year for Prakriya, and as a learner facilitator who has been here for some years now, it's been an amazing learning journey to work with so many people who are, constantly thinking, constantly working towards looking at learning in a more meaningful manner. And I think it's time that we share this with a much wider audience. It's important that we do so too, because I think the more we open up these kinds of spaces, learning spaces for children, the world will just be a much better place. So really excited about this.
Yeah. And now to introduce ourselves formally, I'm Sita Anantasivan, the founder of Prakriya Green Wisdom School and Bhumi Network and Bhumi College. When I say founder, most people think of a person who's done that founding bit and maybe just a little bit more of work. But for me, looking at learning processes has been something that I have worked with all the passion, along with all the other teachers and many other resource people who joined us. I have been a hands-on worker, I would say, more than just being a founder of the school. And it's been a wonderful journey to work along with all my colleagues. Sharon Lingdo has been with us for the last 20 years or so. And
Actually, it's been 17.
Okay, it's been a very long time when we have, explored all kinds of things in the school. And she looks very small, but almost like a student. But she's a deep one. She has engaged, she keeps children engaged in very interesting ways. And it's really a treat to see her relate to children and the way they love her. And so both of us together hope to get this started, this whole idea of having a podcast on change the rules of learning. This podcast is meant for educators who want to explore different kinds of learning, and also for parents and young adults who aspire to be teachers, let's say, and anyone interested in education. The focus of this podcast is to look at learning. Now, learning is a very rich and actually vast word. It is really learning of every form of life that has created evolution. Evolution of life, evolution of our human cultures, and so on and so forth. So there are so many kinds of learning. There are so many, uncountable things to learn in life. If you look at words like possibilities, dreams, vision of life, purpose in life. All of these can happen because human beings commit to learn in that direction, and they make something meaningful out of their lives. When learning is such a rich word, why is it that in schools, the learning has become one set of standardized things? If you look at, for instance, I saw an article recently in the newspaper which talked about education in a village. And predictably, what is the picture out there? It is a picture of a classroom, teacher at one end, next to her is a blackboard. All the children are bending over their desks doing some writing. Now, this is only one set of learning processes. The teacher inputting stuff into the children, and children learning and writing exams and getting marks and so on. But yet, this has become a standardized and a kind of a stereotype in education, and everybody thinks of education like this. Can we bring back some of the real richness of what learning is? That's what this podcast will be all about. It is not that this kind of learning is all bad. Many of us have learned a lot. We have survived and thrived despite this one kind of learning that's prevalent. What is important is for us to realize things like, it's only 7% of our population who are working, the workforce rather, the 7% of our workforce is working in the organized sector, which means working in offices, as engineers, in government offices, in education, etc. 93% of our workforce are doing various other things, agriculture, craft, involved in various other services, etc. And if that is the case, what they really need is very different kind of vocational training. But we find the same kind of one-size-fits-all education that's happening all over in schools. Now, coming to look at what is the problem of this kind of learning, it is really not, as I said, it is not about it's all bad, but it blocks other kinds of learning. What is concerning is that this one-size-fits-all kind of learning blocks the exploration of other meaningful ways of learning. And what has happened today, as we can see in India, for instance, is we have monocultures. Monocultures is a word that is often used for agriculture and horticulture and so on. For instance, when a rich rainforest is cut down and we have 1 or 2 species or 3 species growing everywhere, which is called a monoculture. Now, Vandana Shiva used this very interesting term, monocultures of the mind. So what we have is monocultures of the mind because of this standardized way of learning. And you find every other person wanting to become an engineer or a doctor, whereas life is rich. There are so many more things that we can do in life, and that is not focused on. So that is one major issue, major thing that blocks learning of a more interesting kind. So what do you say?
I think how this monocultural thinking also develops is with years of children being numbed by expectations of acing the exam, expectations of getting into the right job, and also the overall focus, an over focus on content. Where and we also see, most schools not allowing children the freedom to express themselves, to develop, their own ways of thinking in terms of decision making, in terms of learning with curiosity, learning for the joy of learning.
Yeah, and another thing that happens because of this standardized way of learning is that there is very little scope for children to explore and own up their multiple strengths and talents and so on. And everyone tries to fit into the system and fit into the system at school. Children, after all, cannot question too much beyond a point, and neither do the parents nor the educators question it. And they all end up being quite happy to be cogs in the wheel in a larger system. So questioning as a whole suffers.
The teachers who work day in and day out, teaching and learning in the same frame, that can kill creativity. And in that sense, we become postmen, who are just taking something ahead without thought, without putting in our beliefs in terms of what really learning can be, where we see a child's eyes light up with wonder, where we can see a child learning to work with certain problems and things like that, solve problems.
Yeah, so what you're really saying is that different aspects of the education system seem to create a kind of gridlock where no change happens in the ways of learning. So, if you're not happy with the standardized modes of learning, what are the different kinds of learning that will help, will be valuable for children according to us? Let's add a bit of that.
I think the first thing that comes to my mind, Sita, is really this whole thing of how do we, how can schools be spaces where children have freedom to express themselves, freedom to speak what is on their minds. I think a lot of times the system that we have now doesn't allow for that freedom, and that can take away a lot in terms of schools being empowering, enabling spaces for our children. And I think some aspects of Prakriya that I see here that are, very crucial spaces where we have enabling spaces for these kinds of conversations that can happen for children are the circle times that we have. We have something called an open project, where children get to choose a project that they want to work in, which is, of their interest. And that itself opens up so many possibilities.
Yeah, there is too little importance given to questioning and conversation in the normal school. And I guess it's true what somebody said, that reading and writing can improve your information and knowledge, but you need conversations to foster wisdom. And that's one thing it's a very simple thing to add for a teacher to stretch herself a little bit, to give that time for children to express themselves freely. And I think another thing that we need to add is what we can call holistic thinking and holistic learning, and which holistic has become an often used word, and very often it simply means, people mean only that, okay, it's a school that has games and arts and, dance or music and so on. That's not really what we talk of as holistic. Holistic means you take any question, any issue, any lesson. Can we see all sides of the problem? Can we look at the whole system at many times, not only one part of the system, and so on. And it's also true that where there is more experiential learning, the learning can become more holistic. Many people call it, in a simple way, learning for the head, heart, and hands, and which very often there is very little space, because very often classrooms have 30, 40 children, and how is a poor teacher going to provide learning for the head, heart, and hands? And so it's a bigger problem we are dealing with. And also what we call active learning. Children, the teacher doing very little, but just getting them started off to do something actively in the class, to learn on their own, through their own initiative. That's another way that holistic thinking can be fostered. And yeah, there is so much more. Anything you can add to that?
No, I was just reading this, article by Doug Lemov, and he talks about a culture of errors
Ah,
and how, through when we provide a safe space for children to make errors and to see how they can learn from that, and that making a mistake is the first step to learning.
yeah.
That was something very powerful, I felt, that we need as a culture, we really need to
Yeah.
work with.
Yeah, instead you have make a mistake and you get a red mark, or maybe we have more or less stopped hitting the child, but the child still gets a tough look or a bad mark or a poor mark or something like that. Yes, errors are very important, and that also releases freedom in the child to explore more and learn more in different ways.
And to add to what you're saying, I think it's also important for us as schools to look at how we can, not just schools, I think as adults with children, right? How do we enable children to explore what their purpose in life is, to explore what they want, to explore learning for personal growth. And what do you think about that, Sita, in terms of learning for purpose of life?
Yeah, I mean, see, nowadays you get a lot of interesting videos and podcasts coming up, and it so happens a lot of the pop-ups on my phone were about people who've lived to be 100 years old, or people in their 90s, or talking about what helped them live a long and fulfilled life. And almost invariably, they are talking about having a purpose in life. Now, that purpose may be something quite small, looking after the cats in their neighborhood or whatever, but there is a purpose in life which goes beyond their own personal needs. And that is very meaningful for children to grow, into thinking wise adults. That is very important for children to grow up into being thinking and wise adults. Yes, it may be difficult for a regular school used to this standardized kind of learning to bring in, a focus on helping children look at a purpose of their lives beyond doing exams and so on. It may be difficult, but it's possible, especially today when media of all kinds, the YouTube and social media, etc., has made learning exponential. And a lot of interesting things can be used, although I'm not saying that an excessive use of internet is good for children, but yet in some ways teachers can bring in stuff from the outside to set up as examples, to start conversations with children and about what excites them, what interests them, what do they want to do in life, and so on. Maybe getting in guests or faculty or parents to also engage with them in ways to make them explore what they want, and not for the parents to decide, you do this in life, this is what you're meant to do. That restricts the child a lot and doesn't allow exploration.
And if I look at it in terms of breaking the rules of learning, the present rules of learning, I think it's crucial that we look at how we take our learning also outside of the classroom.
Yeah.
And to that end, how do we really allow children to have immersive experiences outside with nature, engaging with the world around them, right? Beyond the classroom space.
Apart from generally the stress relief and enjoyment of nature, it's also said that children who don't spend enough time outdoors and spend too much time in front of screens end up having difficulties. Like, for instance, their attention span is shortened. They have decreased problem-solving skills, and sometimes obesity and various problems of this kind. Hence, it is very important. And Dr. Richard Louv, who studied this, has written a book called Last Child in the Woods, and he talks about nature deficit disorder. He calls it a disorder where such problems are faced by children when they don't get enough exposure to nature. And I think it's important, and it's sort of spreading in different corners of the world where people are, schools or individuals are trying to do something about bringing in more nature to children.
And, while talking about the disorder, in 2021, there was research that was done in America of school district administrators. And it was found that 77% of children had actually, faced a drawback in their learning, in their social emotional learning with COVID, during the COVID time. And if we look at it, during COVID, the entire system was, online one. Secondly, nobody went out. So, and we have experienced it as well as educators here in India and across the world, right? We've all experienced what the report also says. So in that, if we look at it, nature is a very important part of, learning for children. And we can include principles of nature. We can just being out in the green world itself, outside, that itself can be a healing, immersive experience.
Yeah, it looks like, unfortunately, we take nature for granted. But the new online phenomena that's happening, it's a lot of glamour for everybody. And people are celebrating the fact that the children have been given iPads, and there's a lot of online learning in their schools and so on. But at a young age, what children need is actually more connection to human beings, more connections to nature, because these are spaces and ways of learning which increase their ability to face complexity. Yet, everything that is important cannot be measured. As Einstein said, not everything that counts can be counted, and not everything that can be counted counts. So if we really value our children, and we need to value non-measurable learning also for them, and hence we have to look at various other methods of learning which may not be measured, but it's going to add a lot to their lives. Yeah, so
it's important, I think, to really look at a different vision of learning, and how do we add to the exam focus that we have and change the highly competitive nature of education that we have now, to looking at schools becoming nurturing spaces which empower children, which enable them to be themselves, freer, happier individuals.
Yeah, that's true. And we need to look at what we can add. I think I've said this before, but what I mean is we cannot change the system overnight. But I think every educator, every school can add certain things that bring in valuable ways of education for children. I think many educators are already doing that. We hope that this podcast will be useful to parents with young children, to educators, to young adults, and anyone who is interested in this whole field of education. I invite you to like and subscribe to this podcast, and also share here what are the issues in education that concerns you, so that it will help us design our future episodes. Thank you.
So let's change the rules of learning.
You also say thank you.
Thank you.